This is the third video for OCR B1, You and Your Genes, and we're looking at genetic diseases. There are two genetic diseases or disorders that we're going to look at. The first one is cystic fibrosis, and the one on the next video is Huntington's disease. So let's have a look at cystic fibrosis. Often shortened to just CF. Okay, so in cystic fibrosis, symptoms are essentially twofold. There is a respiratory problem, and that causes essentially a thick mucus which blocks passageways to the lungs. So the problems with the mucus obviously will lead to breathlessness, because the passageways are going to be much smaller, so it's hard to get enough air in, and also you're prone to lots of respiratory infections, so it's likely that you could have lots of chest infections, so really quite unpleasant. As a result of that, you do need to have quite vigorous and regular physiotherapy to break down the mucus, in order to break it down so that it can, in extreme cases, be sucked out in order to clear those passageways on a regular basis. So the other issue is in the digestive system, in that the thick mucus gets into the pancreas, which prevents enzyme release, and as a result of that, it's quite hard to digest food properly. So enzyme release is prevented, and that leads to poor digestion. And if you're not digesting food properly, then you're not going to get all the nutrients and energy from the food, and therefore you're going to find it difficult to take on enough calories. So these are the symptoms of the disease, and again, highly unpleasant, and it makes life very, very difficult and very, very challenging. So let's look at what the cause is. So the cystic fibrosis, first of all, to remember, is it's a genetic disorder, so it's inherited rather than caught. So you can't catch cystic fibrosis. You can inherit it if you inherit the allele. So the cystic fibrosis allele is recessive, and it's represented by small f. Remember the idea of what recessive means. So recessive means that it will always fade into the background if there is a dominant allele which isn't for CF. So remember, that's recessive, lowercase. So if we look at the types of alleles that you might have, so this pair of alleles, remember that alleles always come in pairs, one from the mother, one from the father. This person would be a carrier of CF but wouldn't have the disease. This person would not have it because they don't have the allele, so the large F is the dominant gene for not having cystic fibrosis. So no disease. Only if you've got two lowercase f's are you then having the symptoms of cystic fibrosis. So let's have a look at a case study of an example of parents who have a mixture of alleles. So let's imagine we have one parent who has the alleles large f, small f, and the other parent also has large f, small f. So both parents are carriers, but neither parent has cystic fibrosis. So let's try a Punnett square for that. And again, if you want to pause it, then you can check whether yours matches mine. So one parent and the other parent, like so. Then all we're going to do is we're going to cross those and see what we get. So large F, large F, large F, small f, large F, small f, small f, and small f. So as we can see here, only this person will have cystic fibrosis because they've both got the recessive alleles for cystic fibrosis. If it's this person and this person, will both be carriers, and this one here will not have the disorder. So if these parents have babies and these are the 4 possible combinations, so there's a 1 in 4 or 25% chance that you'll have CF. There is a 50% chance of being a carrier but not having the disease, and then there is another 25% chance that you won't suffer at all. So remember, key points about cystic fibrosis are: it's a respiratory disease, it causes mucus in the lungs which block airflow to the lungs, causing breathlessness and making you prone to respiratory infections. There are digestive problems in as much as mucus in the pancreas prevents enzyme release, and as you know, those enzymes are crucial for digestion, so it leads to poor digestion and not being able to get enough nutrients from your food. It's a recessive allele, which means that it will only have cystic fibrosis if both of your alleles are for cystic fibrosis. The dominant allele, capital F, is not to have cystic fibrosis. If you have one of each, you're a carrier. If you have neither, then you don't have the disease. If you have both recessive alleles, then you have the disease. So just to practice before we look at the next video, could you try these 2 parents? What would the chances of the offspring being carriers, and what chance of the offspring have of having cystic fibrosis? And again for this one, 2 small f's and 2 large f's. So in this situation, what is the chance of somebody who has cystic fibrosis, who has children with someone who doesn't have cystic fibrosis, what is the chance of their offspring either having cystic fibrosis or being carriers for cystic fibrosis? Thanks for watching.